Al-Rastan is the third largest city in the Homs Governorate, located 25 kilometers north of its administrative capital Homs and 22 kilometers from Hama. Nearby localities include Talbiseh and al-Ghantu to the south, al-Zaafaraniyah and al-Mashrafah to the southeast, Murayj al-Durr to the northeast, Tumin to the north, Deir al-Fardis to the northwest, and Kafr Nan and the Houla village cluster to the west. Al-Rastan had a population of nearly 40,000 in 2004. It occupies the site of the Roman-era city of Arethusa and still contains some of its ancient ruins. It continued to exist as a relatively small, but strategic town throughout the early Islamic and Ottoman eras. Al-Rastan is situated adjacently south of the large bridge linking Homs and Hama. The total land area of the town is 350 hectares. It is the site of the Al-Rastan Dam, a major dam on the Orange River that has a retaining capacity of 225 million cubic meters. The dam is principally used for irrigation. The city also contains one of Syria's principal milestone quarries. Since the start of the 2011-12 Syrian uprising, Al-Rastan has served as a major opposition stronghold and has been the site of heavy clashes between Syrian government forces and rebels from the Free Syrian Army. History. Classical era Al-Rastan was built on the site of ancient Arethusa. According to Roman historian Appian, Arethusa was established by Seleucus I Nicator, founder of the Seleucid dynasty in the 3rd century BCE. Most sources agree Seleucus named it after the city of Arethusa in Greek Macedonia, but others claim it was named after a spring in Sicily with the same name. Arethusa had originally been a native Syriac town called Al-Rastan, mentioned in the Christian First Council of Nicaea in 325, whose name was Hellenized as Arethusa by Seleucus. To a lesser extent, Al-Rastan continued to be used, particularly by the indigenous inhabitants, alongside Arethusa. It served as the first capital of the Amazani Kingdom in central Syria, a vassal of the Roman Empire, in the mid-1st century BCE. Roman historian Strabo stated that it was well governed under the Felix Sampsiceramus from 64 to 63, when the Roman general Pompey captured it. Amazani control was restored by 46 BCE when it was ruled by Iamblichus I. During the Roman civil war that followed the death of Julius Caesar, the city's inhabitants sided with Mark Antony against Octavian. Nonetheless, Arethusa became an independent city-state following Octavian's victory in the Battle of Actium in 31 BCE, but returned to Amazani control 11 years later. Thereafter, its status declined with the rise of nearby Mesa as a religious and political center. Byzantine era. Arethusa was a Christian bishopric by the beginning of the 4th century. The First Council of Nicaea in 325 counted among its participants a Bishop Eustathius of Arethusa. In the time of Roman Emperor Constantius II, Bishop Marcus of Arethusa was authorized to replace a pagan temple in the city with a Christian church. Under Julian the Apostate, he was ordered to rebuild the temple. To avoid doing so, he fled from the city, but returned to save the Christian people from paying the penalty in his stead, and in 362 underwent very cruel treatment at the hands of the pagan mob, as recounted by Theodorensis Omen. He is said to have been the author of the Creed of Sirmium and was counted by Tilemont as an Arian. Research by the Bollandists restored his reputation for orthodoxy. The Roman Martyrology commemorates him on the 29th of March, with the description, St. Mark, Bishop of Arethusa in Syria, who in the time of the Arian controversy held firm to the Orthodox faith and was severely maltreated under Julian the Apostate. St. Gregory of Nazianzus lauds him as an outstanding and saintly old man. The Eastern Orthodox Church celebrates him on the 20th of March, by a subdivision of the Roman province of Syria after c. 415 Arethusa became part of the new province of Syria Secunda Syria Salutaris with capital at Apamea on the Orontes. The episcopal see of Arethusa thus became a suffragan of the metropolitan see of Apamea rather than of Antioch. Other bishops of Arethusa whose names are known are, a second Mark, who took part in the Council of Chalcedon in 451, Eusebius, one of the signatories of the letter that the bishops of Syria Secunda wrote to Emperor Leo I the Thracian after the killing of Patriarch Proterius of Alexandria, Severinus at the start of the 6th century, and Abrahamius, who ordained the priest Constantinus of Apamea, accused of monotheism at the Third Council of Constantinople. Lebanese sources such as Giuseppe Simona Semani and Bishop Youssef al-Dibs claim that Maron, the patron saint of the Maronite Church, who died in 410, was buried in Arethusa. Most Maronite sources also believe the monastery of Maron was located in the city as well. In the Crusades period, Arethusa was for a short time a Latin Rite see, of which two bishops are known, mentioned respectively in 1100 and 1135. Since Arethusa is no longer a residential bishopric, it is today listed by the Catholic Church as a titular see for both the Latin Church and the Syriac Catholic Church. Islamic era. According to early Muslim geographers, Al-Rastan, despite its strong fortifications and large garrison, was swiftly captured then destroyed by Abu Ubaida's forces during the Muslim conquest of Syria in 634, while Umar ibn al-Khattab was caliph. In early 945 the Aleppo-based Hamdanids under the leadership of Saif al-Dawla decisively defeated the Ikhshidid army led by Abu al-Mashrafah at Al-Rastan, from which they proceeded to conquer Damascus. According to one account, about 4,000 Ikhshidid soldiers were taken captive in addition to hundreds killed in action or drowned in the Orontes River. In 1115, while Artukid ruler Il-Ghazi was resting at Al-Rastan on his way north to Diyarbakir, Khan ibn Naraja, the Seljuk ruler of Homs, attacked his camp and briefly had him imprisoned. Following Saladin's arrival at Al-Rastan in February 1175, the Crusaders under Raymond of Tripoli withdrew from the siege of Homs, which was then captured by Saladin, bringing most of Syria under Ayyubid rule. In 1226, during Ayyubid rule, Syrian geographer Yaqut al-Hamawi visited Al-Rastan and wrote that it was a small and ancient town. It is now a ruin, but the remains still show what was its former splendor. The Mamluks gained control over Syria in the 1260s, and organized the region into kingdoms subordinate to the Sultanate in Cairo. Al-Rastan became the southernmost town of Mamlukat Hama near the border with Mamlukat Hims. In a major battle at a place between the town and Homs, the Mamluks under Kalawan decisively defeated the invading Mongol army of the Ilkhanate in 1281. Later, in the early 14th century, Abu al-Fidn noted that in Al-Rastan, each of the houses is so large as to be almost like a village, with ruins everywhere round of buildings and walls. Quote, he further noted that a few arches, gates, parts of the city wall and its water channel were still present. In the late 16th century or early 17th century, during Ottoman rule, the caravanserai Khan Al-Rastan was built just outside the town. Abd al-Ghani al-Nabulsi, the 17th century Sufi sheikh, visited the false tomb of Persian Sufi mystic Abu Yazid al-Bustami at Al-Rastan in 1678. Writing over his grave, "There is splendor and awe," asserting his presence there. Khan Al-Rastan was visited in 1745 by Edward Pocock, who described it as a huge fortified caravanserai that was decaying rapidly. Modern era. At the beginning of the 19th century, Al-Rastan was an impoverished village whose population engaged primarily in husbandry. It occupied the northernmost part of Arethusa's ruins. Like Homs during this period, its houses were built of black trap. They were described as small, ramshackle dwellings with mud roofs supported by wooden beams. A few buildings dating from the Mamluk era contained arches with the Ablaq architectural style. During the Franco-Syrian War, Al-Rastan served as one of the bases for Salih al-Ali and his local allies and was shelled by French forces in early 1920. Two Sunni Muslim, agricultural clans, the Firzat and the Hamdan, dominated Al-Rastan in the 19th and early 20th centuries. The former claimed descent from the Banu Abs tribe that arrived in Syria as part of Khalid ibn al-Walid's army in the mid-7th century. A member, Sheikh Abd al-Qadir, served as Al-Rastan's Mukhtar in the late Ottoman and French Mandate periods. Abd al-Qadir was the father of Mustafa Talas, who would become defense minister under Hafiz al-Assad in 1972. The Hamdan had greater influence in the city and politically identified itself with the Nasrist trend, which gained mass appeal in the Arab world in the 1950s-60s. On the 23rd of March 1961, the Bulgarian Techno Impex company completed the Rastan Dam while Syria was part of the United Arab Republic with Egypt. The dam is currently the third largest in the country. Ongoing Syrian civil war. Al-Rastan was one of the first cities to participate in the Syrian uprising against the government of Bashar al-Assad that would lead to the ongoing Syrian civil war. In mid-April, large anti-government demonstrations began taking place in Al-Rastan as well as nearby Talbiseh. On the 28th of April, about 50 local Ba'ath party officials resigned from the organization in protest of the government, and opposition activists claimed 17 demonstrators were killed by security forces. On the 29th of May, the Syrian army launched an assault on the city which lasted through most of the first week of June. By the 2nd of June, local activists claimed at least 52 civilians were killed, while the government stated 4 of its soldiers were killed in the offensive. By August 2011, Al-Rastan was mostly in the hands of the opposition Free Syrian Army, which was made up of defectors from the Syrian army and civilian volunteers. According to Al Jazeera, many defectors from the army come from Rastan. The unit based in the city called themselves the Khalid ibn al-Walid Battalion. That month saw the FSA target local government figures and sympathizers, and pro-government Shabia militiamen attack opposition-held neighborhoods. In late September, the Syrian army, reportedly backed by tanks and helicopters, launched an operation to retake the city, resulting in 4 days of fighting. The Syrian army succeeded and the FSA withdrew. Opposition militants regained control of the city by January 2012, reigniting continuous clashes between them and the security forces which started late that month. On the 31st of January, 10 activists and their relatives were killed in Al-Rastan after the building collapsed from Syrian army fire. On the 6th of February, a local FSA unit commander Ali al-Sheikh reported that at least 42 people were killed by the Syrian army in the preceding 3 days. By the 4th of March, the FSA had managed to repel the Syrian army, although many of the fighters retreated for tactical reasons. According to the local commander, army shelling reportedly killed 3 people that day. On the 14th of May, opposition sources claimed that 9 people were killed as a result of Syrian army shelling, while 23 soldiers were killed after the FSA attacked Syrian army armored carriers approaching the city. An FSA member stated that Al-Rastan has been destroyed. Quote, In September 2015, the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights reported that ISIS jihadists murdered 7 men in the town, accusing them of being homosexual. In the north side of the city, the Al-Basel National Hospital is a major army base for government troops and is often the target of rebel shelling. Demographics. In 1970, Al-Rastan's population was 7,509. It had a population of 39,834 in 2004 according to the census by the Central Bureau of Statistics of Syria. There were a total of 6,066 households. Reuters news agency put the city's population in 2011-2012 as roughly 60,000. The inhabitants are mostly Sunni Muslims. Bibliography